look like they're the same ones.
They technically are,
Yeah.
but it's a different receiver.
Yeah, okay.
All right. You just have to remember to talk towards it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Bobby would carry his voice so loud. Yeah, they're loud.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, smokes.
Yeah, because like Bobby would carry his voice so loud. All right. Let me share it real quick.
Mm-mm.
So loud. Welcome to the Lumber Lounge and Garage bench racing episode Monday night. We're back at Bob's Turn 5. It's been a while.
Oh, man. It's been a long time. I feel like I haven't been on here in like 6 months.
Well, not just that, like actually being here.
Yeah.
Since before Chili Bowl.
Yeah. Well, Chili Bowl was good, I thought.
Man, it was real good.
Yeah.
We hadn't even really had a chance to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been on the show
Neither.
since.
That's right. We've had some guests in between.
I had family stuff and insurance things,
and we passed.
So
we're good.
The test, thank goodness.
We're good. You like that?
It took me a few tries, but I got her. I like it. I like the backdrop.
Yeah, we got a couple special guests that'll be here.
Yeah,
they'll be permanent guests.
Great tribute to Avery.
Yeah, so that's we always cheers at the beginning of the night. So cheers to you guys. Cheers to Avery. We got to celebrate him yesterday, so that was super cool.
Yeah.
Cheers to Trav. Cheers to Ed. Cheers to Chap. Cheers to anybody that you want to cheers to that's not here with us anymore, right? But yesterday was good. Scott Walton did a great job.
He did.
Travis Kidd was there singing.
Travis is really good.
Yeah. And it was just all around. It's good to see all the people.
Things like this become different when you become a parent, right?
Yeah.
When you have kids, and obviously as a parent, you never want to lose one of your kids before you go. So, it's hard. It's hard. But I thought the celebration of life, and that's a pretty common thing now, right? Like,
yeah,
the family does the funeral, and that's private, and I kind of get that. And then the celebration of life is more of a celebration of life, right? Like it's more upbeat, and there's times when you get teared up, and people get up there and talk, and Avery obviously had some really close buddies and family members, and the place was packed, so that shows a lot.
He just made an impact on everybody's life. I know. I didn't know him very long. Obviously, I've known Mike a lot longer. Yeah.
Same.
And just met Lane and Avery both here in the last 4 or 5 years, and obviously Avery is more quiet and more private than the other two, but was such a good person. I feel like truly he had the most talent out of the three.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
But even Mike will tell you that. But I think one of the coolest things was at Fort Smith when Avery passed Mike on the last lap to win the race.
Oh, he did?
It was an ASCS race.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were running 1-2.
I did not know that, yeah.
If you go to Avery's Facebook, or I think it was Avery's Facebook or somebody's, but it's the in-car where he's chasing Mike down, and he slides him, and dude, it was a hell of a race.
That's awesome.
Hell of a race. So shout out to the Goodman family in their time of mourning. I know Mike was... you seen Mike Friday. I seen him Saturday.
Yeah.
And for the situation, seemed like everybody was in high spirits.
Yeah.
I think it helps when everybody shows up to really show that support. Jacob Hughes came down from South Dakota.
Yeah.
He's a Houston's guy, and Him and Avery were best friends, so he got to talk. And then I didn't catch the guy's name that spoke the second time, but that was Avery lived with him in Colorado. So
yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of people there that the racing industry really showed up out for him. Yeah. So that was awesome.
That's the best thing about our industry, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have enemies, but when it comes right down to it, like, typically they all like gather around and cuddle each other when they need to be cuddled, and it was good to see. It really was.
You know, we've seen that time and time again throughout the years. With since I've been involved, you know, I've lost Steve King, Daniel, Jesse Hockett, Jason Johnson,
and
Jason Leffler was all in there. You know what I mean?
All their right, like all their celebrations of life was like
Donnie Ray.
You couldn't even put more people in the place.
No,
no, that's good.
What up, Turtle? Yeah, shout out to Turtle. Turtle. Let me tell you about Turtle. Turtle is he's a rapper.
Is that his rap name?
That's just what we call it. I think Turtle is his rap name, but that's just what we call it. Awesome. But like he's just this bald-headed white dude that loves. It's like country rap.
Yeah.
And so I met him through CJ and Kyler. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, he works for CJ and for CJ at the trailer business, and CJ and Kyler were like, "Hey man, you gotta listen to this song Turtle made," and it's a song about Kyler and his racing, and it's like, oh yeah, dude, it's freaking badass.
That's really good.
And then when I was up there in Quinter, working on some stuff, he let me listen to a song that he did with. I'm pretty sure it was with like. I want to say Jelly Roll was on it, but it was a song that brought together like this, like the country rap. But it was like he was like one of the originators of it, and he knows that whole clique.
Yeah.
And so like he had a verse on the song, and so it was pretty cool. So shout out to Turtle.
Absolutely.
What's up, brother?
Checking us out.
Man. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
He actually used to do a podcast, so like he actually taught me a little bit about what we need to be doing. So
good stuff.
But you have been gone. You have been in Florida. So I know you went down there for insurance, but did you catch any racing?
I did. We went to Volusia on Saturday night to catch the last night the World of Outlaws. And then Jeff, who owns SIS, rented the suite for the first night of the late models on Monday.
Nice.
So we did that Monday, and then the main reason I was down there, they have an RPM promoters workshop, and it was Monday, Tuesday. I flew out Wednesday.
Yep.
It was good. I got to golf a little bit. Dude, the weather was unreal down there. Like normally, you have a couple rainy days, a couple cold days, and then it ends up being okay. But man, every day was almost 80. It was so nice.
You know, speaking of golf, I think next week we need to have our show at like one of these indoor golf places.
I agree. We need to.
We play some golf, and maybe we can get some local person to come visit and chat with us. And so anyway, we'll do that next week.
Yeah.
So at least you got to check out some racing because I was down there the week before.
Yeah.
Checking out the ASCS stuff. And it was good racing altogether. I think that last night kind of was like pissing in the Cheerios because it took rubber. But I talked about this last week with Ryan Timms. You know, a lot of people don't understand them UMP cars run a really soft Hoosier tire, and that sand down there just eats them. So I mean, it still ended up being a good race. I mean, still rubber racing with a 410 is way different than anything else because they can still race, right? But you know. I think everybody is just getting mad that Kyle Larson keeps winning.
Yeah, well.
But everybody hates a winner, right?
I fought the same battle. And he was my car owner for a minute, and he still beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I feel their pain. But here's the thing, like, that, you know, back in the day, Andy Hillenberg would tell you, I hated Steve Kinzer.
Yeah.
Like, the dude just beat us every day and every night. Like, and so when I first got started out there, it was Gary Wright.
Actually, we hated shots.
Yeah, well, so I wasn't hating much, but yeah, when I got out on the national deal with the Outlaws, it was Donnie Schatz. Like he won everything. Yeah. The year I ran second in points to him, I lost by I don't even know 90 points. Like going into Charlotte, he just had to show up.
Yeah.
And that sucked,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm still trying to think, oh, man, I have a shot.
No, you don't.
Yeah. He had to just start his car and take the first lap of qualifying for the week. He beat me. But, I mean, that's just how it is, man. There's always, in time periods, I think Larson's probably a little bit exception to the rule.
No, absolutely. I mean,
but in time periods, there's always one team, one driver that's always a little bit better than the rest. So.
Honestly, I mean, like right now, I feel like we don't have that. Brad Sweet was kind of getting there, but he didn't win a lot of races. He was so consistent that he won championships. But we don't have somebody. I think that's really where, like, the cool thing about sprint car racing right now is there's not somebody that's just dominating all the night, every night.
No.
You know? They go through spurts, right?
Yeah.
They go through, Macedo really had a good end of the year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's cool because there's, 10, 15, I'd say 8 to 10 cars every night that could pull off the win.
Yeah, now that the series are split, right? Like it makes I would love to be out there racing full time because you can make some serious.
So which would you do? Would you do high limit or outlaws?
Man, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
But look at it from a standpoint of money, right? Like, so if I was you or if I was a driver, I feel like I would do more high limit because I don't have restrictions on me.
Yeah.
So I could go race for more money.
Right.
Right. Now, I don't know tow packages and stuff for high limit, and I know it's really good for outlaws, but
it's good for both. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it does make sense to do the high limit thing if you're trying to run for points and still hit all the the major races that you can win really good money at. So but with that said, I think David Gravel's going to go on a little bit of a.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a champion a few more times.
Yeah.
He just,
is there an asterisk because Brad Sweet's not there?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't.
I think I actually
he was knocking on the door when Brad was
a
champion there in the last couple of years. And honestly, I feel like if Brad was on the Outlaw Tour right now, I think Gravel could beat him.
I think so too.
Yeah. So
I think so too. I really think my prediction this year, if Macedo can stay healthy, or not have as many DNFs, let's just say that.
He's definitely.
I think him and Gravel are going to be right there.
I agree.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in the hunt against each other to really see who shines on that. Gravel and Cody Jacobs together are just fast.
Yeah, and Gravel's. I mean, you just look at Gravel's past history. It doesn't matter what car he's in. He's winning.
Yeah.
And
he won in Bill Rose's car.
Well, yeah, and
Bill Rose has nice stuff. Don't get me wrong.
he won over. I think he won over 20 races in the 5 car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I won 2.
Yeah.
So,
we picked up a new sponsor while you were gone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's DC Irrigation.
Okay.
And they'll fix all your drippy leaks and stuff.
We all have drippy leaks when we get older.
Yeah. That's thanks, Woody.
Yes, thanks, Woody.
Good old Woody. So you got to go down there, and then you got to go to TPC Sawgrass, and I'm still salty about that.
I did.
But it's okay because we're gonna get some chances to go play golf. What's that like playing at some place like that?
It was super nice, man. Obviously, a highlight of my golfing.
Yeah.
So last year, my cousin Greg owns a insurance agency in Norman, and he's done really well. And now he's in a point of his life where he can sneak away for a couple weeks and just whatever.
That book of business just keeps getting paid no matter what he does.
It's like owning storage buildings, right? But he last year, our dads are getting older, and he's like, you know what? I want to try to get together and at least do a golf outing once a year. So last year we went to Phoenix.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that was great trip. Played a course just outside of Phoenix. That was really nice. And then this year, well, actually at that particular time, he was asking us, where do we really want to go play? And of course, we started throwing out all these crazy names, and he's like, oh, we'll see if we can make it happen. And one of them was the course out there out west on the coast.
Pebble Beach?
Yeah, Pebble Beach. So Pebble Beach was, the weather was going to be awful. in January, and obviously we tried to book things around my crazy schedule, and so we didn't get to do Pebble Beach. And he said, "Well, what about Sawgrass?" And Sawgrass, the weather was great. The cool thing about Sawgrass was it was one of the last weekends leading up to the Players, and then they shut the course down to make sure everything's nice.
So you pretty much got to play it as close to PG, like tournament ready as it can be.
Yeah.
How hard was it?
It was like, I'm talking like they moved a 500-year-old oak tree, and they put it over a tee box, and they had like professional golfers come just for the day to tee off on this hole, just to make sure that the tree didn't interfere with their tee shot. I mean, dude.
And they moved a 500. They didn't cut it down. They moved it.
Like big cranes.
Oh, yeah.
Had to break up the cart path, redid the whole cart path. This tree survived. It didn't even look like it had been moved.
Yeah,
and then, dude, this thing like overhangs the tee box, and it's pretty low. And everything, dude. I can't remember who designed this course, but it's all intimidating, right? Like, we literally played holes where the whole side, left or right, was either sand or water. Oh, wow. The entire hole. So, dude, if you're...
I know where I'd be like David Hasselhoff. It would be on the beach.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you back. Yeah. Haas said it's about time we got to see you. Forgot what he looked like.
He just saw me.
Yeah, I know. Good old Haas. Shout out to Haas, though, for what he did for us at the Chili Bowl.
Awesome guy. He's really good at what he does.
He got me the file yesterday, and so finally getting the YouTube channel going. So YouTube channel is live. Go subscribe to the Lumber Lounge and Garage YouTube channel. We're starting to get shows put on there. Going to start uploading Chili Bowl shows in case you missed them, right? And then these shows are going to get put on there the next day. So learning a lot, trying to do it on my own. Thankfully, I have people like Haas to call and you know. But yeah, so man, we couldn't thank him enough for what he did. That was awesome. We do have a guest tonight.
Yeah,
we got to call him up. Give him a shout. We'll let him answer first. Hopefully he answers. Hopefully he's not doing anything dumb. Anyway. Oh, I think that's him.
What's up, man?
Mr. Jake Hagopian, how are you, sir?
Good. Yourself?
I'm good. Me and Shane are here sitting at Bob's Turn 5 and having a couple cold beers, and we're glad you could join us tonight.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Jake. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Just actually playing with some Legos right now.
Oh,
hey, that's nice.
What are you building?
We're building some race cars right now. One-off stuff.
I was like, do you know anything about that?
Oh, that's awesome.
So is this what you consider your downtime?
I made it a point tonight to try to hang out with my youngest one while my oldest at basketball practice.
Nice.
Yep. So it's a busy time of year.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Trust me. I was just telling somebody the other day, I've got 2 weeks before race season starts here, and I haven't even touched my track. So you're well in front of me on getting track improvements and with that, man, your track looks amazing, man. Like you and Jason have done a great job.
No, we appreciate it. It just, luckily for me, I got all the resources in the world with Jason's construction crew, right? So, me and Jason together kind of dangerous because sky's the limit when it comes to ideas. So, if you get an idea and you throw it out there, it might be kind of dangerous because it'll start happening. And we kind of thought we had all of our projects done, and before you know it, there's 10 more new ones thought up. And so, we're almost ready, but it's
when's your first race?
Deal. You know how that goes.
Yeah, when's your first race there?
Same weekend as the All Nationals.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess he's not coming.
So bad scheduling on our part, huh?
Yeah. All good. Oh, good.
So for the people that don't know who you are, Jake Hagopian is the owner of Driven D1. If you know about the micro world, so just to kind of fill everybody in, Jake, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and obviously with your track in Lemoore and everything else like that.
I mean, guess I'm a racer.
Yeah.
Turned businessman. Turned racetrack promoter. started off as a farmer, I guess. I don't know. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, I'm everything, I guess.
Yeah.
About the only thing I don't know how to do is I'm not a welder. Luckily, I got good guys that are good TIG welders. So
Yeah.
everything else I can do.
Well, I mean, we've kind of seen the growth of D1. I remember the first D1 I seen here in Oklahoma was Allison Slayton.
Yeah.
And then her and Dewberry out of Oklahoma City, they both had a couple D1s.
Okay.
And so to see the progression from that to where you're at now, and the people that you've surrounded yourself with is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, back then it was, Greg got a hold of us and he wanted to be different in Oklahoma, and everybody said 4-bar cars couldn't get around Port City. That was that's what everybody said. But J-Rock had proved that wrong years before that, So it's just a matter of getting, the right tools in the hands of the right people, and then, I think the Robs were to follow, and Layden Pearson and the Robs got some cars down in OKC and with Greg, and it just kind of grew from there, and I think it sparked some interest, and between Harley and Frank, I think that was the end of 2015 when we did the dealership deal with the Midwest. That was just kind of what blew the lid off of it, and at that point I had just bought my dad out from the business. It wasn't. I think the date that I enacted my corporation when I bought my dad out was September 30th, and I think we were not too far behind that, a couple months before Driven Midwest came about. So I was a young, sorry about my dog, young entrepreneur at that point, and it's been almost 10 years, and it's just been nonstop.
Yeah, and the relationship you've built with Harley and Holly over there at Driven Midwest, and just the continued growth that we're seeing around here is, but you needed to do that, just because you were secluded out there on the West Coast, and you needed to find somebody out here to really kind of get that going. Do you agree? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things where the exponential rate of growth was because we were able to put the product in the middle of America, right in Oklahoma, where micro racing's a hotbed, and their business model of going all in, and having Harley's expertise in business, and also being a lifer in micros, and then back then having Frank involved, and he was obviously is still super successful, but at that time he was setting the world on fire, so a combination of a lot of things, and at the same time too, I mean, my guys have rose to every occasion that's been presented in front of them, and I mean, I'd like to think that as far as production's concerned, like my guys, I mean, we're not an assembly line. We're not a Chevy assembly line, right? We don't have robots, but I mean, we're always working. I mean, we are always working. There's no days off over here, and we I mean, we try to stay consistent, and like, I think the combination of all those things, right? And then, getting all the right people in the right places, and, age too, I think at the time, like, young and hungry and kind of in our mid 20s and, early 30s. And now we got Michael and KJ and TJ and that, Cody. And I think we had this strong group of guys, and we were all friends, and we're just getting after it, so I think when you add all that stuff together, that's, essentially, between Midwest and,
just guys that are hungry racing and perfecting our craft. It's probably why things have, progressed at the rate they have.
Yeah, and those guys are all racers too, so that makes a huge
Yep.
difference, right? Like feedback is tremendous.
Yeah, and I mean, like at the end of the day, like skin a cat a million different ways, right? So like what works for me doesn't necessarily work for KJ. It doesn't work for Michael, but in that we learn really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think probably in the last 3 or 4 years, it's really, because of that and having nights where, I do something that works for me when I was racing and I'm like, hey guys, you need to try this. And it doesn't work for them. And it's why isn't it working for you guys? And you start realizing that body composition and driving style and how high their seats mounted versus how, where I'm sitting in the car.
Right.
You take all those things and you really like start putting some math behind it. And all of a sudden we got a setup seminar book a few years later that, explains all that stuff. So,
right.
Yeah.
I just think that having the group of guys that we have here, has really helped us be able to help customers all over the country. And obviously we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out what the magic combination is. Cause Shane, do you think you got it figured out one year and then the next year, all of a sudden none of it makes sense. So
right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, it never stops, man. It never stops.
And that's the fun part. I mean, you don't want to waste time. You don't want to end up not winning. But I mean, even in the last probably 18 months I've tried to get okay with going to the track knowing that if we're not winning and we learn something, it's okay.
Yeah.
Where there was a time where like if we didn't win, it was a complete failure.
Right.
And that was a lot of weight on my back. I guess you could say on my shoulders when I was racing. Is like if I wasn't doing good, then I felt like the product wasn't good or the brand wasn't representing itself. And now that we're over 600 out there since 2012, and
That's
then
awesome. Yeah.
90. I took car number 90 of our junior sprints to the powder coater today, and it's
That's
just
awesome.
like you kind of get to a point where it's like, okay,
you're established.
even if we didn't do good tonight,
Yeah.
somebody probably did good.
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing, you know as well as anyone in your industry, like the level of competition just gets stiffer and stiffer and stiffer and stiffer as you get older, and a lot of it's just technology and people becoming smarter with the product, and the shocks become easier to work on, and once people learn how to talk the lingo, because I feel like, listen. If you look at a micro, 30 years ago versus today, there's a lot of similarities. Same with the sprint car.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has changed a lot is the shocks and the engines. And if you can learn that, right, and learn how, not necessarily how to take them apart and fix them, but just say, hey, look, I'm talking to my shock guy here. Like, I feel like I need this at 1 inch or at 0 or at 3 inch, and they're like, oh, okay. And they build it, and then you have success. Like, I feel like that has really elevated racing as a whole. So, there's just a lot of competition in your world, right? Like with Sawyer and Factor One and all the other companies that you have to deal with. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of specialists, and that's the thing about microsprint racing is it's like that's most of the evolution of the sport is like the people that need to learn that stuff are probably the dads or the crew chiefs that aren't driving the cars, right? And so that's the toughest part about this. It's like almost like a bad game of charades, right? You're trying to make something better for somebody that really can't tell you what's going on, maybe a select few, right? And then you're trying to empower a dad or somebody that, is trying to help their kid win, and they've never drove a car before, or they haven't drove a car in 20 years. And so you've got all these specialists, right? And you've got a guy like Frank Flood, who's a lifer, or Frank Galusha, that's a lifer. And, when you talk about lingo and understanding 1 inch numbers, 3 inch numbers, like we all eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. And you have a customer that's coming in from go-karts or from quarter midgets, and truthfully, basically got this hourglass of, hey, we're going to do micros for 4 years. We need to win this year, so we'd be ready for a midget by year 3.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I gotta help you understand this,
right.
And then now what we have is we have these, what Chad Boda's done and what Mike Carver's done with his rental programs, and like kind of what we're seeing now, like places like Millbridge and stuff, is like you don't have to learn how to understand it. You can just go pay somebody to do it, and when you really look at the numbers, even though it seems ridiculous, the financial feasibility of going that route, it's probably saving somebody time.
It makes sense.
Time that they don't feel like they have, right? So that's the challenge, I think, with the direction of this sport is how do we keep the barriers to entry low, but at the same time, how does somebody like myself or Mike Dicely not want to innovate just as quickly?
Right.
And as we're innovating, somebody told me the other day, whatever I'm thinking about or whatever another manufacturer is thinking about, like we're 2 or 3 years ahead of what our consumers can understand.
Yes.
So like I get crazy ideas in my head and I'm like, man, that's not going to work. But the truth is like, you have to see it through. Yeah. It just hasn't come to fruition yet. And nobody's going to believe you or understand it the way that you're thinking about it because they're not even ready for it yet because they don't think about it 24/7.
Right.
Well, it goes back to what you said that nobody, people said that a 4-bar ladder car would never work at Port City. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make it work no matter where you're at, and people have to believe in it.
Hyper would come to California,
correct?
Their asses, but Snyder did.
Right.
It's just, people they only know what they see, or they only know what they're empowered by.
They know what they know.
I mean, that's the hardest part about being a manufacturer for the long haul in this industry is being able to see past what's working right now.
Yeah.
And
I get what you're saying. We forget that micros is still kind of entry level into racing, right? And like you made the comment about dads, and a lot of these dads don't really know what's going on, and that's not a bad thing. They're trying to get involved and get their kids going, and trying to teach them this stuff is so hard.
It's so hard.
And I was fortunate; I got to work with Ryder McCutcheon, where his dad came from racing, came from sprint cars. But I think the hardest part for me was trying to figure out what the kid was saying, what Ryder was saying.
Yeah.
Because they don't even understand what they're feeling. And so you gotta
that's what I say.
you gotta cipher what they're saying and figure out what they need,
Yeah. Like I said, it's a bad game of charades, right? Like you got either you got a great partner. Like for me, when I was working with Corey Day, like it was poetry.
Yeah.
Like we were just on the same page, and that's a lot of the reason why I, said, hey, you want to drive the 14 car when he was 12 years old, and his dad Ronnie was like, what? And I'm like, man, I could just tell he's somebody I can actually learn from him, because he was so switched on.
Yep.
And that's the thing that, sometimes it's easy to work with somebody and sometimes it's not. I mean, like right now I'm working with Jet Barnes and he'll drive the 14 car, kind of like what I do with Corey. We didn't do it full time, but we did it enough to, make a statement. And I'm going to do the same thing with Jet. And like right now, what's great about Jet is just like everything I would do for me, it works for him.
Nice.
And we're just, he's, his exposure rate as far as like the lingo and, being able to articulate what he feels, he's not quite where Corey was, but he can drive a race car, and a lot of where Corey was because of Ronnie, right?
Yes.
I mean, he just, and that's the other thing when you bring, a family into racing that doesn't have a parent that raced or a family member that raced, but they want to, that's where Corey was at an advantage. He saw Ronnie race his whole life.
Yeah.
And he was around Jason Myers and it's not even fair,
Yeah.
So,
but here's
in
the
my
thing, Jake.
situation, like I got kids that don't really care to race, and I got like I have so much knowledge that I'm like, man, I could really make my kids good race car drivers, but they don't really care to be good race car drivers. So I'm like, all right, that's cool too, So,
Right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Speaking of Corey Day, like he still made the best of every situation that he was put in, right? And
100%,
like you've seen kids come up and they're really good and then they just kind of vanish because of certain things and things timing didn't work out or whatever. But Corey was he took advantage of all his situations, and obviously that one door led to another. And then to another, and now he is where he is today. But those are all good connections through you and Jason and his dad. And but on our side, and even on my side, like it's hard because mom and dad, they all think that their kids are Corey Day or Kyle Larson, and it's like, okay, listen, I'm not saying
around here it's Christopher Bell.
Yeah, Christopher Bell. I'm like, I'm not saying that your kid's not, but. Like you gotta step back a little bit and let the kids be kids.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the tough part about. I just think sports in general now is it's just like I'm assuming that like this generation, like I don't know if we're doing it right or wrong as parents, but we're willing to do whatever it takes for our kids to become specialists, exceptional at all their hobbies, right?
Yeah.
And when my dad first started racing in the late 70s, like he was just out of high school, probably had a couple grand to his name and bought a race car and went out and raced with a bunch of guys that also had a couple grand to their name and just wanted to go have a good time.
Right.
They didn't race with their kids. They raced for themselves.
Yeah.
And now the whole sport's changed where, as parents or, I'm a parent, but like I was killing myself to run a junior sprint program with my son and build the best of the best because that's all we know how to do, and you hope it's going to play out for him, but it's you don't know, like with Corey Day, like it's just timing, and when Corey ran for me, like it was just timing. My kids were young, and it was like right around COVID, and we had time, and it worked out, right? But like in the last 3 years, like I haven't wanted to go do that with anybody else because I don't have the time,
right?
And so for Corey, like you said, it was just timing, and that's just how it works. And like Corey and Jade, right? Those two, they come from our area, and we were all really close with them, and we all did it together, and we had a good time. That's the other thing that people don't realize is it's like
you got to enjoy it.
It's gonna be fun, and sometimes you're just around a good group of people, and it all happens the way that it should.
Yeah.
And that's why really I can't get into the rental deal just because it's like, I don't care how much money somebody has. Like, if it's not easy, why are we doing it?
Right. Right.
And, this is not my business model, because at the end of the day, like I'm still a racer. And if we're going to go to the racetrack, like I want to win, I want to at least have a chance at winning, or I want to learn, for me to be in a situation where I'm racing with somebody else, it's, when we were doing it with Corey and I was around Jade a lot, like we were winning, but it was also easy because we were all friends, and we had a great time together. And, I think that's the part that people don't realize is like the kid can be a great race car driver, but if the rest of it doesn't mesh well, the opportunities just don't come and the doors don't open because this is our hobby and we don't want it to be painful.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, Jake, like we're still out here to have fun.
I mean, we're trying, right? We're supposed to. That's why we're all supposed to do this, right?
Yeah.
A few of us have been able to make a business out of it, but it's still, like I said, it's supposed to be fun.
I tell people all the time, like honestly, weekly at my track, like guys, listen, like you're not a World of Outlaw team or driver or any of that. Like you're like, listen, what I pay you tonight is not going to pay your electric bill. So calm down.
Well, they might not have
calm down.
They might not have paid their electric bill to make sure they come race.
And that's the flip side of it too. Like you're saying, I mean, there's so many passionate parents, and I've had to bite my tongue a lot. Trust me, I've learned to deal with it a little bit better now than I did at the beginning. But
that's the thing about racing, right? It's like at the end of the day, even the lowest dollar team at the track has enough disposable income to go out there and expend their time and their energy and their money on a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
And the truth is like, that's a privilege.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, we are all very privileged to be able to have such an expensive hobby, regardless of how much money you're spending on your race car.
Right.
Because the truth is what it costs to get in the back gate is what it costs to get in the back gate.
Mm-hmm.
The time that it takes, and if you're taking time off work or you're putting diesel in your truck to go, like you're putting ice on your ice chest, like
And all
for some
adds
people
up.
that's not even an option, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
the truth is that everybody at the racetrack, it's not life or death.
Yeah.
It's more life or death for some of us that are making a living off of it,
Right.
but it's not really life or death a lot of people treat it like life or death because they have it added up that their kid is supposed to get to NASCAR.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, there's a certain, I won't name names, but there was a certain customer that I had that they were very adamant about their kid winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why are you so nutted up about this? And they're like, because we have to win. And I'm like, why? And it's like, because we got to get there. And I'm like, get where?
Yeah.
And they're like, we got to make it. And I'm like, what if you don't?
Yeah.
And they're like, and they said, well, then we failed. And I'm like, how can you say that? I said,
Right.
you spent every waking minute, every weekend with your kid doing something.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get there, it's just circumstance.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they
It's-
weren't talented enough, or maybe the timing wasn't right, or maybe,
Less than 1%.
maybe you just didn't have enough money. But the truth is like, when it's all said and done,
Yeah.
like, think about everything you did.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a waste of time,
No.
Right.
you know?
I mean,
and so
think
that's
about
where,
this.
like,
This is what I think about. Malcolm in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He races in the trucks now.
yeah,
He has a net worth of $30 million.
He does.
Yeah.
And like it, and he loves racing, and he's paying to be there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
but like that's how he got there.
Right.
But like the average guy that's coming up through the micro to get to NASCAR now, unless you're a Corey Day or a Kyle Larson or a Christopher Bell,
Yeah.
or you come out of late models, that's you gotta have a big pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's the truth is like anybody that's racing for a living, Shane, you know this. Anybody that's racing for a living, somebody else is just using their disposable income to give
Right.
you an opportunity to
Right.
make money,
100%.
right?
100%.
Like it's a write-off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, is it real life? Well, yeah, it's real life because somebody's spending money to do that, and you get to do that, so then I get to build cars and sell it to that guy, and then, so we all have a career out of this, but the truth is if it didn't start with one guy that had disposable income, it wouldn't work, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's
So-
the unfortunate thing, but then it goes back to, one, it goes back to timing, and two, it goes back to how easy are you to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a guy that has a lot of money, or a woman, or anybody, right? So anybody that has a lot of money and loves race cars and wants to spend it on race cars, you think they want to deal with somebody that's unpleasant?
No.
Right. Right.
You know, so it goes back to who are you, and,
Right.
you know, how do you handle yourself? And like I love Corey like he's my little brother, but I always tell people, like, I had fun racing with Ronnie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ronnie's
You
a
know,
good
like me
dude,
and
man.
Ronnie,
He
you
was
know, like,
awesome.
we have a great connection,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
like I love Jade like she's my little sister, but Ryan, her dad, is one of my best friends in life, and I also see him as a father figure since my dad's passed because I ask him a lot of advice all the time, you
Right.
know, and so it's just like it works.
Mhm.
It worked, and it was worth my time because it all was easy.
Right.
You know, and even when Corey was a teenager and he'd get dressed in the trailer and he'd leave all of his freaking clothes on the ground, and I'm like, dude, pick your stuff up.
Clean it
Yeah.
up, bro. Clean
Yeah.
it up.
You know, and I'm like, I got one other kid to raise. I don't need any more kids. You know?
Yeah. Well, man, I got a question for you. Something that I don't know why I've never asked you this in person, because I mean, me and you've known each other for a few years now. Since actually, it's actually been 10 years. Because I was talking to Harley yesterday, and when they first started D1, I was helping them, or D1 Driven Midwest. I was helping them in the shop and stuff. Anyway, that was 9-10 years ago. What made you hanging around the Ronnie Days and the Jason Myers, and I know you did dabble a little bit in a sprint car, but what made you decide to like stay in micros and not and not take that jump into the sprint car world?
Honestly, I'm blaming it on my dad, really. So, I mean, I raced junior sprints. Like, I was one of the first real junior sprint kids in California. They had got the class started in like the mid '90s, but it didn't take off. And so when I first started racing junior sprints, like there was like 2 or 3 cars. So my dad started building juniors, and that's how the class got going. And like my third year of junior sprints, like we had like 30 cars a night. Like we had
nice.
B mains every night. Yeah, and that was we got to give my dad the credit in that, because he just started building cars, and rollers were like $5,000, and like people just got into it, you know?
Right.
And, but anyways, like my parents got divorced when I was in high school, and we're farmers by trade. Like money just racing wasn't first priority.
Right.
And my dad said, hey, you got your whole life to race. You're only going to get to grow up once. So like I played baseball in high school and basketball and stuff. And, you know, I was just busy being a teenager, you know, racing was just kind of, wasn't my main thing. Not the way it is for some of these kids now, you know.
Right.
And then I got out of high school and went to Fresno State, and we started racing again. And I was 17, 18 years old, and we were racing, and I was doing okay. And I had a few chances, you know, a couple guys come up to me and say, hey, you want to run my sprint car tomorrow night? My dad is standing right there, and he's like, absolutely not. And I'm like, what the, you know, and he's like, as long as I'm in charge of your racing, if you want to run a micro for me, no. He said, you want to go run sprint cars? I'm selling everything.
Oh, wow.
And so
did he hate, I mean, what was the like? Did you ever have a reasoning behind that? Did you just not like him? I mean,
so like Shane, you probably maybe kind of know this. I don't know, Snow, if you know, but like my dad was Jason's mentor, Myers,
okay.
growing. And so when Jason won all his national championships in the 125 and the 250, like my dad was his crew chief.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where the 14 comes from with Jason. Is from my dad. So my dad saw Jason, you know, branch out and go sprint car racing. And I think the first year he was his crew chief, but it was too much. You know, at the time I was probably like 6 years old or something. So when Jason ended up, you know, getting real deep in the sprint cars, you know, that's when my dad backed out of that. And I don't know. I mean, I guess he never was able to articulate it to me, but until I was older, he's like, he didn't want me to be on the road. He wanted to see me have a family and have a real life. And he never was able to just say like, hey, I don't want you to be a traveling carny when you grow up.
Right.
Like, I want you to, you know, have a, you know, real career, and not a real career, but like, you know, so.
Yeah.
Anyways, but I was spiteful, really, because he really was never really able to articulate to me, and maybe I wouldn't have been able to be mature enough to understand it at that time. But it wasn't until I was married and had kids and was kind of flying out to go race in the Midwest a little bit. I'm like, I don't like this, you know. I want to be home, you know. Yeah. So it wasn't until I had that aha moment where it was like, okay, like I get where he was at. But now that I have kids, I can't imagine them running midgets or sprint cars.
Mm-hmm. So here's my outtake on it. So my dad did race. Like, he was gone, right? Back in the 80s, my dad retired in 91. And there was summers where I didn't see my dad. And, like, I kind of, like, I understand that. But where I make a joke, I feel like my dad just hated me. And they were like, well, why is that? I was like, because they don't have FaceTime, or they didn't have FaceTime, right? Like, so my dad was just okay with not seeing me, right? But I know that's not true, right? But like now we have FaceTime, and we can still talk to our kids, and because I get on a plane and I go and do some racing every now and again, and it's tough. It's tough. I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, or I still get up at 5 to check on my wife, and hey, how are the kids? Like, that's my first thought of the day, and then when you come home and they run up to you and, oh, Daddy, we missed you, we love you. Like, it just changes your whole world.
Yep. Yeah, and that's, I ended up running the sprint car later in my 20s, and kind of what had happened was Myers was done running sprint cars, but they were still kind of had the team going a little bit, and they asked me if I wanted to run it, and I was like, man, I guess, you know. And I mean, I got to the point where people would ask me why I didn't run sprint cars, and I'm like, man, like, I'm married, I got kids, and I got a business, and if I get hurt in a micro tomorrow, everybody's going to be like, that sucks.
Yep.
But if I go get hurt in a sprint car tomorrow, everybody's going to be like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Like, why'd you go do that?
Right.
So that I basically kind of talked myself into the idea that, like, it just wasn't ever going to be my thing, you know?
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, obviously you found your place in the world with micros.
Man, it's taken me all over the world. I mean, I've been to Australia to race 5 times. I've got to race in Pennsylvania and all over the country, and things that, you know, if I was a sprint car driver, maybe I never would have got to do. I just might have been a local California guy, and we don't know, right? But
yeah.
I mean, Jason and HV gave me the opportunity to run the sprint car before Corey was ready.
Yeah.
And when it was happening, I kind of told Ronnie, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just getting the seat warm for Corey. And Ronnie's like, you're not wrong. And I'm like, okay. So when I got to run that thing, it was kind of like they were just getting the band back together, and it was getting everybody warmed up. And it was perfect for me because we ran it, the first night I ran it, it was only supposed to be a 1-night deal. And went out there, and it was just a local 360 show at Hanford. And went out, and I could just remember sitting in the push-off lane. And I'm like, can I cuss on your show?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I literally closed my eyes and was just like, fuck life, don't lift. Fuck
Yeah.
life. You know?
And then that's where you got to go to.
Yeah.
And I went out, and I went second quick. Like, first sprint car race ever, right? And there's like 25 cars. And I'm like, holy. So I get back to when you get back to the trailer and everybody's just like, you can tell everybody's fired up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think we ended up, like, the feature it was hard, man. Like, I think I missed my transfer in the heat, like, started mid-pack, and at one point I felt like I was dead last, and then, I don't know, somehow I ran, like, 7th, right? And the next Monday, Jason called me, and he's like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. And he's like, what do you mean you're sorry? I'm like, I felt like that was terrible. I was like, I felt like I was driving a boat in neutral. You ever try to steer a boat when you're neutral?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Shane, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You just still going nowhere in a sprint car. Like, it just feels like you're floating across water. And he's like, no, man, you did good. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. And he's like, we could do like 6 or 7 more shows before the season's over. Because it was like late. It was like early September. And I'm like, and he's like, man, I think we'd be ready for Trophy Cup. And I'm like, what? Trophy Cup? I get off the phone with him, and I, like, go to my wife, and I'm like, you wouldn't believe this. And she's like, what? And I'm like, Jason wants me to run this thing. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, no, we can't do one more thing.
Right.
She's like, how are you going to do one more thing?
Right.
And
Our plate's full.
Like, it was a big deal, you know, and at the time, our youngest, he was like a year old. And the sprint car shop was, I mean, it was like a 40-minute drive from our house. And what was happening was I was like putting the kids to bed, and then I'd go to the sprint car shop to help those guys because I wasn't okay with just being a race car driver.
Yeah, you're hands on.
You know, and because I didn't want those guys to think that I didn't appreciate the opportunity. And, like, what ended up happening is like, it wasn't a popular decision, but I just told myself, I'm like, I don't want to wake up and be 65, in which I would have, you know?
Yep.
And so I went after it, and it actually went pretty good, and a lot of people were just like, man, like, can you imagine you didn't run sprint cars the last 10 years? And I'm like, I know, but that's not the way I went.
No.
I said, but,
Could you imagine if I did and you guys wouldn't have race cars?
Well, and that's the thing is like, you know, can you imagine if I was just a race car driver for a living? I probably wouldn't have the wife I have and the kids I have and the life I have, you know?
Or the success that you have on the business.
I was going to say, that's what people don't understand. Is like everything you do leads you to the moment you're at right now.
Yeah, man. It's all played out for you.
I actually, and Jake, you'll know this, and Shane might, I don't know. So when I was in college, a lot of people don't know I played basketball all the way through college. And the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I was at JUCO. A friend of mine that I grew up with, he played at UCLA, and he was in his sophomore year at UCLA. He's a year older than me. And he was back for the summer, and we played in a pickup game. And it was me. Earl Watson was the guy I grew up with. Baron Davis. Most people have heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then two of our other friends, and we played in a pickup game at the junior college I was at. And I had never seen somebody jump so high in my life with Baron Davis. He, Earl threw him an oop out of nowhere, and it was just like, I don't know how he's going to catch it, but he did. Anyway, well, after that, we're sitting there, and Earl was like, hey, man, why don't you move out to California this summer, live with me, get you a job, help pay rent, and really hone your skills, and basically go to UCLA and learn and get better. And I was like, I'll think about it. And it's like, if I would have done that, one, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? My life would be totally different.
Yeah.
But that's probably the one thing that I've always thought about. What if I would have? I don't regret anything because again, everything that I've done has led me to sit here and drink beer and talk shit with you guys.
Yeah.
But what if, right? Like you said, what if you would have raced a sprint car? Instead of start your business.
Yeah.
Well, I think what was good enough for me was I had Johnny Rodriguez, right? He's like, man, things are going good. He's like, imagine if you'd been racing sprint cars. He's like, imagine where you'll be next year. And I'm like, man, Johnny, I was like, just hearing you say that and giving me the vote of confidence that it would have been good if I was, that's probably good enough for me.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's good enough for me because at this point, I know I'm so far away from getting out of it what I want to, right? Because I'm competitive like that. If I can't figure something out, I'll end up grinding it out until it works. And that's been my racing career in micros was I was never a Frank Flood or just I wasn't natural like that. I had to work at it, and a lot of my craft is just repetition and studying and figuring out where I'm not good, and the sprint car deal, I know that, I'm not a kid and I'm not just dumb and I'm not just going to go out there and rip the guts out of it and figure it out, and that was the challenge with the sprint car is Myers is you're trying to be too perfect.
Yeah.
Let it go. And it's funny when you see a kid in a micro that's just out of control and can't hit his ass to save his life, and then he gets in a sprint car and he's winning, and you're like, dude, that guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in a micro.
Right.
And the thing about micros is we've all been doing it for so long. We've got this intuition, and we're perfectionists. Yeah. The ones that have been doing it forever are perfectionists, and that doesn't work in a sprint car while you're trying to learn how to drive it, right? You kind of just got to let the beast be the beast. And I could remember Myers pushing me back from the trailers and stuck his head in the roll cage, and he's like, hey man, we make money every day, go drive the shit out of it.
Right.
Man, if I was 18 years old, that's all you want to hear. But
yes.
I'm not your guy for that,
Right.
So
I'm going to use that line on the next driver I work with. We make money.
As long as you're not paying the bills.
Yeah, I'm not paying them, so.
Yeah.
But you have to have that mentality, it, right? You have to have that mentality of, it is what it is. I'm already here.
Yeah. I hate saying it. It sounds bad, but you got to drive it like you want to die, and then eventually you get used to the fact that you may or may not die, and then it is what it is, right? And there's just that's the one thing is I used to think that you needed to be in micros until you were accomplishing something in micros, you shouldn't move on to the next thing. But the truth is, when you do become effective at a certain craft, you build up this intuition, and then you have to knock down that barrier when you get to the next thing.
Right.
And that's what I feel as a long-term micro sprint racer, I had a hard time breaking down that barrier.
Yeah.
And forgetting everything that I knew about micros, because there's just certain things Shane, when you wing in and you feel like the car's bouncing out of the track, and it's not really doing that, but it's just the expansion of the left rear tire that's putting you on the right front.
Right.
And when you feel that in a micro, you're probably going ass over tea kettle.
Right.
The motor's about to slap you in the side of the head, but you do that in a sprint car and it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
But you feel it, and so then as a good micro sprint driver, you anticipate that and you fix it, and most people don't see it, right?
Yeah.
They don't even see that you felt that. but you can't let that happen in a sprint car. And that was the mental block. And that was where I got to a point where it's just like, okay, unless I just quit micros, we're not going to get better in the sprint car, and that's not good for business.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely not in your business.
I think you see that a lot now. Like now that I'm on this side of it, and I see kids, it's like what you just said earlier. Like you see a kid that's really not that great in a micro, but like goes up to a whatever it might be, a midget or a wing sprint car or a non-wing sprint car for that. Like he does really well, and you're like, man. But I think if as a mom and dad, you know, as a track owner, you don't see or hear the conversations on the way home with the kid or the dad, like, you know, hey, how do you feel? And honestly, if the parent gets a little bit of an inclination of, you know, hey man, my kid's like telling me that he's ready to move up, and some might be ready to move up, some might not be, but the ones that are and they progress, like, man, it's good to see. I tell people all the time, one of the best things about owning in Port City is watching my junior sprint kids do well in the restrictor class, right? And then watching them do well at the shootout, and then watching them progress into, you know, some kids have just gone to a junior sprint to a midget. Like it just, you know what I mean? Like, and that to me makes like that makes me feel good. Like to see the progression and it's not for everybody. It's not, as you know, but it's good to see the kids all make it.
Well, and that's the tough thing too. Is it's like, you know, maybe progression to the next level isn't for everybody.
It's
right.
not. No, it's not.
And I think
that's in every sport.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Bronny James.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be in the NBA, but because of who his dad is, he makes it in the NBA.
But
you know, I'm gonna get some haters for that.
He might love basketball just as much as the next guy, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing about, like, I felt with my son racing junior sprints, like, he likes racing, but, like, he's not eat, breathe, and sleep it, you know, type thing.
Yeah.
Like, he likes the idea of it. And the challenge with the way the racing sport is now is like, you're not doing it every weekend, twice a weekend, and then racing go-karts in the wintertime when you're not racing a micro.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, like, you're falling behind. Are you wasting time? Well, no, but like for a kid that doesn't really know if he likes it or not, but, you know, still wants to do it, like, how do you ever help them build that confidence up to where,
I get
and what I had to tell my son was, is like, you know, you don't have to drive a race car to love the sport.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, because if there's 100 guys in the pits racing, there's 400 people that are making their world go around.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and it could be the flagman, it could be the car owner, it could be mom that's making lunch in the toter. Like, it takes so many people to make racing good for the guys that are actually racing, guys and girls that are actually racing. And if there's 100 cars in the pits, there's really probably only 15 people that are really good at driving race cars.
Yeah.
You know, everybody else is hoping they get good at it, or they're just trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And maybe out of those 400 people that are there, you know, maybe not all of them love the idea of being there, right? But somebody they love is there.
Right.
And that's what our jobs as promoters, Shane, is to help people learn to love the sport.
Right.
Or, you know, so somebody goes to your track and your bathrooms are a mess. They don't want to go, especially if they were only going to the races because somebody else is going to the races. Right. You know, or the food's not good, or, you know, it wasn't a welcome environment.
Yeah, it's got to be all the above, right?
Yeah, first impressions.
It's got to be D.
First impression. Speaking of promoting, you started a race for your dad.
Yeah.
And we've had 2 years now, right? 2 or 3.
My dad's race has been going on. This will be the 8th year.
8th year.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we started in 17.
I need to wake up, I guess.
Well, it wasn't a big deal until a couple years ago.
Nah, I wouldn't say it wasn't a big deal. I don't know. But so you have your dad's Mark Hagopian Memorial Race every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been at Lemoore the whole time, right?
It's at Plaza Park.
Plaza Park. See, look, I need to do my research.
Which is the track him and Jason took over. So Plaza, you can explain this a little bit more than me, but it's in Visalia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's like there's a Holiday Inn right in front of it. Is there baseball fields adjacent to it?
So it's like in the middle of a city park, pretty much.
A city park, yeah.
Like there's a pond and
it's a cool
and
place.
geese and everything, and then all of a sudden you come around the corner and there's our racetrack.
I couldn't
across
remember.
the street from the racetrack is a golf course, and then there's a small commercial airport next to it, and then now Shane, I think there's 4 hotels right there at that intersection.
Nice.
So long story short, so Bob Mack, and then who else? Do you remember who else was involved in building that track?
So the racetrack, the facility itself started off as a rodeo grounds, like probably 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they did flat track motorcycles, and then in the mid 80s, the Macs and I want to say the Galanis. My dad used to call them like the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of guys that got in, and it turned it into a racetrack. And but yeah, I mean, I'd like to think of it as one of the most picturesque racetracks in the country.
Well, I know I've watched races.
It's like concrete bleachers. It's super.
Yeah, I've watched the races from there. Yeah. I've watched the races from there. I don't know why. I apologize for not being on top of my game there.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
But I've never been out there. I've never been to, I've been to California for the sprint car stuff. I've never been there for the micro stuff.
Yeah.
But what you've done with that race, it's a go-to race now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the goal. So, after my dad died, it was probably a couple weeks removed, and we were sitting around, and it came up that if my dad ever could have found the right partner, that he had considered taking over Plaza to get it back to the way it was. Because like when I was a kid, when I was a baby, like I was pretty much born there. Like the place was off the hook, like packed, right? Like it was a social thing on a Friday night, and that's Plaza's known for running on Fridays. And like I just remember it, I remember it being a big deal. And just I'm not saying that it wasn't, because there's a lot of us that have gone on to bigger and better things racing Plaza on a Friday night, but it just got to a point where like on Thursdays I was just dreaming that the thing was slipped to a cushion, and we'd get to the track, and it just wasn't, man. It just wasn't what it used to be. So we were sitting talking about that, and I said, well, I can't be a full-time promoter, but let's do a race, and let's do it the way that I think my dad would have done it, and that's make it a big deal, right? And just basically took everything that I had experienced over the years, from going to different places, going to the shootout, going to Australia. Shane, you know how promotions can be in Australia. It's I'm sure there's things that you've learned from racing down there that you brought home, and I just tried to take everything that I liked from different venues and put it into that race. And it's been the course of 7-8 years of doing that, but we make it colorful. Like my dad was he was known for having pink race cars.
Yep.
So, then it's loud and it's colorful and it's kind of 90s and 80s and, a little bit of, hair banging rock and roll. And now we've had Nos on board for the last 3 years now. Lauren's been great. And that really helped us. I really feel like that was always my goal, is to get, a corporate sponsor on top of it to help us really market it. And what I want people to be sitting back watching me and being like, man, I want to go check out Plaza Park. It's on my bucket list. And, as the race grew, people are like, man, you should promote, you should take this place over. And I'm like, yeah, right. No way. There's no way. And what happened a couple years ago is Jason and I, our sons were racing junior sprints, and we'd be sitting and staging, basically complaining about the situation,
Yeah.
And we ended up going on a discovery mission and kind of finding out some things behind closed doors with the city, because the property's owned by the city.
Yeah.
And, it kind of, the opportunity came that we might try to do it. And couple months went by and we were back at the races, and I looked at Jason and Jason looked at me, and he's like, man, I don't got time for this. And I'm like, neither do I, man. So we wrote it off.
Yeah, right.
And then basically what ended up happening was the city was going to put it up for public bid.
I was going to say there was talks of it shutting down, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically the property is 60 years old, and the city really wasn't interested in spending money on it. Yeah. And basically whoever won the bid, it could be whatever they make of it, as long as the city approved of the bid. Mm-hmm. And so Jason and I kind of got back together, and it's like, man, if we don't do this place is gone.
Yeah.
And that's not what anybody wants. So we actually put in a bid, and lo and behold, we were the only ones that actually put in a bid. Nobody else tried.
It's meant to be.
And we have a great relationship with the city, and they've seen our investments, and they went from not caring at all about the direction of the facility to like being fully engulfed in what we're doing there, and it's great. Like, we have a good partner in a government agency, which that doesn't really happen in racing anymore.
No, it really doesn't. We lose tracks every day to that.
Yep. No, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's it's good. It's good, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah,
as you know,
it is, man. It is.
Well, outside of the racing, what makes Jake tick? I mean, I know obviously you have your wife and your kids, but do you get to do anything outside of racing? You know, Shane thinks he plays golf, but
no. A buddy of mine, he's my insurance agent, and he's like, "Wow, man, we got to get together and go play golf." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if I can be like, off limits for 6 hours. Like, even if I am, like, when I get back to my phone, I'm just gonna losing it."
Right.
I don't know. It's just a weird point in life, like kind of mid to late 30s, and there's a lot going on. I was coaching my oldest Quentin's basketball team and baseball team, and I actually enjoy it, but it's just one more thing to be stressed out about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just like the kids are the kids, but then there's also parents to go along with the kids, and it's another group of people I got to answer to on a daily basis, and so I backed off that a little bit, but I don't know. It's just, I think, I miss racing, but I don't miss the work that goes with it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, like, man, I'm just trying to get good at life, I guess. Trying to figure out how to not be busy all the time, but also still be getting stuff
efficient.
Done, you know?
Yeah.
So,
it's all time management.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, we're always doing something. Like, I'm never, like, you ask my wife, like, I'm never sitting down, like, I don't know how to relax. But I think that's just comfort, right? Like, being comfortable with who you are and the direction life's going and stuff. And, that's one thing that Jason, right? Like, Jason's up worse than I am in that department, but he's also very in tune with himself, and he's like willing to seek help to figure out how he ticks and how he can be a better person and stuff. And so I learn a lot from Jason, and I also look at Jason sometimes and I'm like, man, he's got a lot going on, but I don't want to be that busy, Right. So he's a good mentor when it comes to that. Yeah. But he's also a good example, of what it looks like to, be all in on everything you do.
Funny story about Jason. So I couldn't figure out which avenue I was going to go down. At the time, Todd Querying had reached out to me, and so did Justin and Kyle, right? So, dude, I was back and forth. Like, I just did not know which path I wanted to go down. So I reached out to Jason. And Jason starts sending me all this data of everything on his race team, broke down to time management, AA and AAA batteries that they had bought to run their World of Outlaw team. I mean, dude, this dude was like insane.
Yeah.
And so he was going to help me with Todd. And And so obviously I ended up going down the path with LMR, and things worked out. But I learned a lot from Jason. I mean, I'd known him for a long time, but I'd never seen that side of him until we started diving down into, okay, now, what do you really want out of life? And I'm like, oh crap, I don't really know.
So
And he was really good at helping me.
So I have a Jason story. Jason doesn't know who I am at all. But when I was in college, I was in a class where we had to do a resume deal, right? Like we had to submit a resume to somewhere, and it was just a deal. Well, that was in 2005 or 6-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and this was the first time I'd ever seen this. Jason had posted on, at the time it was probably Hoseheads, right? In the classified sections. Looking for crew help, send your resume here, right? So I took that and I used that for my college class.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right? And like I made a resume like I was going to apply for Jason Myers Racing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, it was a mock-up deal. I never actually applied for it, right?
Right.
But I remember it was because I was with Tony Bruce during that time. And I remember we were at Charlotte, and I went up to Jason. I said, Jason, you don't know who I am, but you helped me get through college. I used your deal to make a resume. And he goes, well, why didn't you ever turn your resume in to me? And I was like, well, I really don't know.
Yeah.
And like at that point, I knew that he was more of a businessman than he was a driver. Because a racer's a racer. Like we're all racers, right? But at that point, like I could tell, like his team was different.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were different than the rest because it was you're posting about a job wreck on Hoseheads for your outlaw team. When in that era back then it was, hey, you want to come work for me? Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, grab your suitcase out of that trailer you're just in and come to my trailer.
Yeah.
No,
but as you know, Jake, like he definitely did things different, and like he still does, right? Like. I remember we were all hanging out at his house one time. We were all and he was with the Elite Landscaping, and he was gone all day. Like, and we were young, like really young, and we're like racing go-karts out in front of the house and goofing off all day. And then he shows back up at like 5 or 6, and we're like, dude, where you been? He's like, oh, I got to work.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm working, and dude,
he's a workaholic for
dude.
sure.
That was a huge eye opener for me back then. So, good dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I got to tell myself all the time, like he's 10 years ahead of me, and he's about, I don't know, he probably got off the road about the same age I am right now. So I always have to remind myself, I'm like, all right, where can I be in 10 years?
Right.
And
right.
I think the thing about Jason is like he treats business like driving a sprint car.
Yeah.
Like he's not worried about taking the risk.
Right.
Because if you're gonna do it, you got to be committed. And he tells me all the time, like, hey, once it's said, that's the direction we're going. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna turn around and question it. Like it is. Once the decision's been made, that's what we're doing, and so he, when you really take a step back and you do inventory of everything that he's got going on, it's just, it's insane, and it's overwhelming for sure, but he makes it work, and he's got a lot of great people that, I mean, there's his crew on the construction side, and I mean, there's no way we've been able to do what we've done with the track. I would have never been able to do that on my own.
Yeah.
But he also makes the comment, he's like, man, I can't do it without you because I'm the one that's in the trenches that knows what's going on with micros and, getting all the membership stuff and Pitts Park, so there's he's got a lot larger monetary investment than I do as far as because what he provides with the construction side of things. But, the sweat equity on my side is how we bring it all together, and it is what it is, and it could potentially be more than a racetrack. It could be a full-on entertainment if we put the time into getting it to that point, and so I mean, you're talking about concerts. Like, we're doing a flat track motorcycle event this year. We're doing midgets. We're doing full midgets. So we'll have a Western States show in April, but then if you go look at the USAC national schedule, there's a TVA date in the middle of November, and that's for us.
Yeah.
It's for Plaza.
Awesome.
I've already talked to Spridge, and we just want to make sure that the April date goes good before we,
announce
get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. No, that's
good for you.
Yeah. So
exciting, man.
They just.
Well, man, I'm so happy that you. I called him 45 minutes before we started.
Yeah, and listen, you took time away from your kid to play Legos, so we appreciate it.
I misread your text, and I thought it was tomorrow. I already put like a reminder in my phone, and then my phone's ringing, and it says, and I've saved that number as Snow calling.
Yeah.
And my phone's ringing, and I'm like, oh shit, this is today. Okay, all right. So I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, I said, hey, sorry for the short notice.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, I texted you and Facino at the same time. And it was whoever answered first. Because I had a guest I wanted to come on tonight, but we kept playing phone tag, and I'm saying like, man, who can I get? And I was like, I'm gonna call Jake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna call Jake.
I don't mind being Plan B.
Hey, you know what?
You're a good Plan B, brother.
Yeah, definitely. I've been wanting to have you on anyway, just because you've been so integral to dirt track racing. Not only in California, but in the Midwest. I mean, what you do at the shootout every year the D1 line is just crazy, and what you've done in this sport in a short amount of time. When I first met you, you were with old E-Dub, Eric Wright out of Nashville. And so, to where you're at now, it's just super impressive to see, and kudos to you and your team and Casino, and I'm sorry that KJ works there, but hey, you have to do what you got to do, right?
Got to have one, right?
Me and KJ have it. We always had a joke when he was out working for Beeson out this way, and I said, man, KJ, if we ever had a team together, we could be Snow squared.
That's awesome.
So, but what a great guy,
one of
KJ.
My favorite people in the world.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, what a great guy.
But he's impossible.
He's impossible.
He's impossible. That's the only way I can say it. He's impossible. Today, he was impossible.
Well, we'll let him know that tomorrow. Well, Jake, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
To make a retired race car driver feel like he's still relevant. I appreciate that.
Well, I assure you.
I'm right there with you.
Well, both of you are still relevant. I promise you that. Both of you are doing such great things for the dirt track world. It's believe me, you're still relevant. Promise you that. So, Jake, thank you again so much. And I'm gonna make it to Plaza Park now that I know.
Oh man, you won't be disappointed.
And I'm gonna see if we can go out there. Well, I know you might not be able to, but maybe for the Hagopian Memorial this year.
Yeah.
So,
come on down, man.
Thank you, Jake, again, and we'll have you on again if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's a million things we can talk about.
Oh, dude, you have no clue. When you asked if you could cuss on this show, you obviously didn't watch a show 2 weeks ago with Bobby Milser.
No, I didn't. But me, KJ always says that we need to start a podcast at the shop and call it Monday Morning Roast.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that anybody that thinks we're like prim and proper, well, KJ's prim and proper, but the rest of us, we probably make a few people realize we're not as clean cut as they think we are. So.
I promise you,
that's life in general.
I'll just tell you this: we had during Chili Bowl, we had a show in the morning called Day Old Chili. And it was a recap from the night before, and we ended up getting off. No, actually, waiting for that show was the actual show.
It was
the actual show. We had Cameron Key on there, and we're talking about barbecue. Next thing you know, we're talking about Dude Wipes and Brian Brown. And dude, it went south quick. And bidets.
Oh my.
It went south quick. Somebody actually said this show just went in the shitter.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So. But man, again, get back to building Legos with your kids. I know it's only 7:30 out your way, but appreciate you so much for coming on tonight on short notice, and we'll definitely do it again. And I'm gonna try and make figure out a way to come out to Hagopian this year.
That sounds like a plan, man.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Jake. Thanks,
you,
buddy.
guys. Have a good night.
Yep.
See you.
Good dude,
Man, what an awesome guy, right? Like he's
Yeah.
done so much for the sport, and for the sport of micros. When I first got around it, and especially around here, you had, which you still do. You have Factor One, you have Sawyer,
Yeah.
Intruder.
Mhm.
You have all of these guys around here, and they were the outcasts.
Right.
They were the outcasts,
Yeah.
and what they've done in a short amount of time is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, so I watch him and see the progression they've made at the track.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dude, like the place looks amazing. He's like, yeah, we're just trying to keep up with Port City. So that makes me feel good. Here's the thing. When you're in the middle of it, and like you said, when you're in the trenches, you forget. Like,
You have a nice facility here.
Yeah.
We're sitting at a bar.
Yeah, I know. But
At a
I mean, it's
racetrack.
obviously more than that, right? It's everybody that makes this whole thing work. But you just forget, and then sometimes I'm leaving and I'm like, this place is pretty nice. This place is pretty nice. We have been to a lot of racetracks. And
we've been in a lot of shitholes.
There's, I use the story, Gum Out. We're rolling into Winter, South Dakota, which is literally in the middle of nowhere, and miles and miles in the middle of nowhere. We pull into the track, and they're still setting telephone poles for the lights.
Oh, nice.
For that night's
For
event.
that night. Oh,
I'm
even
like,
better.
this is
Where
gonna
are
be
we?
bad.
Where are we?
Tyler Walker, he's had a bad night. He goes to exit the track, and you have to go over this like big ravine thing, right, to get to the pit area. Well, he's so mad, he forgets, and he's like gone over the big railing and wedged his car into this like ravine, creek type thing, and he gets out and causes a big scene. And at the end of the night, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like unreal. So,
Well, I'm sure that was when Rick was with it.
he was. Oh yeah.
And Rick was pretty happy about that.
Oh, it was just one of the crazy nights that we've had. But it was like we were in the middle of the race, lights go out, right?
Oh, shit.
And so they canceled the race. I just happened to be the lucky one leading.
Oh, nice.
And so Shane won, and I'm like, I probably didn't really deserve this win, but I'll take it.
I'll take it.
The
The Gum Out series was cool though.
it was tough.
Yeah,
The
that was
first year had Jeff Shepard, had Jason Myers, Craig Delansky, Paul McMahon.
Tyler.
No,
He wasn't first year?
No, Tyler wasn't out there then. But dude, there was a handful of guys that ended up having
I'll never forget
great careers.
The Gum Out series came to Lakeside. I don't know if it was that year or the next year. But they came there, and this was back when I used to sit up on the hill in turns 1 and 2, where all the you can sit up there and park. And all my friends were modified guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this whatever. They're not sprint car guys. And it was Tyler Walker. He was in the 35 car with Rick. And they went for qualifying. And where we were sitting was literally right at the entrance of turn 1. Like, we're staring down the front stretch, and like Tyler's coming at us.
Yeah.
And all my buddies are like, you gonna turn? And then right at it's like, the car just slot carred around there, and they went, holy! I was like, yeah, that's why I like sprint cars.
Right.
Yeah, you modified guys change your seat halfway down the straightaway.
eating a burger.
But
Lakeside
it takes it all. It takes them all. Oh, Nick Stencil, he's out in Arizona. What's up, buddy? Justin Pataka said, one of my favorite guests to date. Jake has knowledge beyond his years and is an incredible role model for the sport. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Brandon Klagenberg, what's up, buddy? What up, guys? Good interview. Plaza is very cool, which he's from out west, so I know he knows all about that.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
Justin Morgan said Bushlight sure looking good. Yes, it is. Thank you, Bushlight, for always being there for us. Hoagie's Garage, driving is a little like basketball. I can see that as you get older, kids can handle the speed of the game. Some kids just can't handle it. I agree with that too. And then Chris Ferguson said Shane's been on vacation for 2 years.
I felt like oh my gosh. I felt like
Jeff Algair.
Yeah.
Which I should have brought him up because Jude just signed with Factory 14 with Driven Midwest to drive for them. I believe in the restrictor car with Billy.
Yep.
And that whole camp that's going on over there.
Yep.
And he
They're
said he'll
be here
see
a
you
lot
soon.
this year.
Yep. He said see you guys soon.
Yeah. Looking forward to having Harley and all these guys here.
Of course, Bobby's back from Australia.
Oh yeah.
You know, too much work not to have fun. That's a fact.
Yeah.
He said a few years. You've been vacationing for a few years. That's what Chris Ferguson said.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah. Well, Shane, welcome back, and thanks for taking time out of your busy vacation schedule.
2 weeks, bro. 2 weeks, and Talon's race is here.
I know.
Listen. So the insurance thing is.
I'll be a meeker. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Insurance thing is taking a little bit of my time this winter. But like I tell people, like I can't do anything with my track until I get through the Chili Bowl because of practices. And I have people that want to rent my track out like almost daily leading up to those races. So I leave myself with pretty much a month.
Yeah.
Because normally January is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have a great February. Well, this year.
I was going to say
like drop out
the last few years.
It's been great. I've gotten all my work done in 3 weeks.
February? Oh, nice.
Yeah, in February.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I mean we start racing 1st of March.
No, I know.
With Talon's race, so February has been awesome for me since I've owned the place.
And shout out to T2 Promotions, the sponsor of the show.
Yeah.
Which the Milestone Outlaw Nationals, March 7th and 8th here at Ford City Raceway.
Yeah. It's gonna be a big event.
Yeah.
As always, but yeah. So now I'm 2 weeks, man. I gotta get going. So this week's gonna be a wash. It's gonna be
just extra water.
What does it say? -1 or something?
Oh, not looking forward to it.
Yeah,
School's already canceled.
Like North Dakota weather.
I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna send out an email in the morning.
Garage weather down here.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Thanks, bud. I'm pretty sure I'm sending an email in the morning saying I'm taking the day off.
That's the thing. So the difference between up there and here, like when it gets this cold, we shut down. Our bodies just don't work.
Shut down.
So anyway.
Better leave the faucets dripping.
Got 2 weeks, man.
Absolutely.
Got 2 weeks.
And then Nick Stencil's down there in Arizona just laughing at us. My in-laws are in Florida right now. They picked the perfect time to go.
So this
Florida.
year,
the weather,
dude, the weather down there was.
It was nice when I was there. Like
so nice.
Saturday night. The Saturday night I was there, we had to wear hoodies and pants. And, but the day before it was 80-something degrees, and I mean it was nice. I didn't get to play golf. No, wasn't no rain when I was there either. Yeah. Shout out to our president for showing up.
That's cool.
At the Daytona 500.
That's cool. See his parade actually lead
led the pace lap.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I just wish he was in the back of a truck.
With this
I understand. I know, right? I understand that, because
Toupee probably already got caught in some.
But the fact he was there, that was cool because you think about it, the whole persona of the Daytona 500, Reagan flying in for Petty and all that shit.
He was there with Petty.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Daytona 500 was yesterday. I thought it was shit.
That was terrible.
They don't race anymore. They don't race anymore.
Ruin those cars.
They don't race anymore.
So Mark Martin saw a comment that he made, and he's like, they've ruined it with the bottoms being flat.
Yeah.
So you can't get close to anybody. The arrow's gone. And you could see it too. Like their cars would move around a little bit, and then it was just.
Oh, and Ryan Priest can't stay on his all four.
No.
Well, that guy's had 2 bad flips. Which that one wasn't as bad, but that one a few years ago, whew,
really bad.
That was bad.
So anyway,
dude, yeah, okay. But, so yeah, Cletus McFarland, best interview ever.
Did you see that? Yes.
Yeah, I was driving around there like a bald eagle.
Didn't see that. I'm like, who is this guy?
Oh, dude, the dude's got like so many viewers on YouTube. He's a YouTube guy.
Yeah.
I've literally watched him on YouTube take a nitro or a top fuel dragster and put it on a hub dyno in his shop.
Serious?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I've got to check him out.
The dude's insane.
I gotta check him out.
But man,
dude, his interview was awesome.
Oh, dude, the epitome. I was the best driver in the face of the earth in that moment, and I'm just like,
I should have zigged and I zagged.
Yeah, but I didn't zig, so I should have zagged. And I'm showing my wife this interview, and she goes, "What?
Who is this guy?"
I was like this is like Talladega
I thought it was
Nights
fake
in
for a
real life.
minute.
Yes,
Yeah, I thought it was fake.
because I just think I'm just gonna walk around with cut off sleeves the rest of the weekend. And then they post a picture of him and Greg Biffle, and Greg Biffle cut the sleeves off his shirt. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
That's
But yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
the racing was bad.
NASCAR. My man. It's not racing. Like, to me, that wasn't racing. When they just beat on each other until somebody wrecks at the end, it's not racing.
Yeah.
But
hard.
it is what it is. There's something for everybody, right?
Yeah.
NASCAR's
trying to figure it out.
NASCAR's not gonna go anywhere anytime
No,
soon.
the biggest thing with NASCAR is they're a couple years ago they were in a transition period where a team couldn't just go find $30 million, right?
Mhm.
So they're scrambling, trying to find 6 or 7 people to make up their season's budget.
Mhm.
So NASCAR's like, okay, same as an IndyCar back in the day, right? IndyCar was same crazy budget, and then they went down a path to where they could do a full IndyCar deal for $5 or $6 million.
Mhm.
And
The race one was good.
It wasn't, but it saved the sport.
Yep.
Because the car owners were going away quick because they couldn't afford to do it. Couldn't get sponsors. NASCAR was heading down that same path. So then NASCAR was trying to figure out, if we make these cars all OEM, right? Like you just go to Makeshift Bob and go buy a front end and a rear end and all these components. I just, I feel like they're obviously still trying to work on it, but
It's a work in progress.
they haven't got it yet.
Where I kind of go. There's a show that it's on Dirty Mo Media. I want to say Carson Elledge is on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had an episode one time where they were talking about, do you remember the name of the sponsor that was on such and such's car?
Yeah.
Last week. They're like, no,
Yeah.
I don't. And I think that's like they change their sponsors so much.
Yeah.
That you don't know who
It
they
wasn't
are, and
the
you don't even
Tide
know what they
car,
are.
or
right?
wasn't the Kodiak
yeah.
car, right?
And now we're getting
Wasn't the
sponsors.
Budweiser
We're
car.
not getting sponsors where we can just go to the local store and get whatever sponsor that is, right?
Yeah.
Because the rule of thumb with NASCAR fans is there was the most brand loyal fans in any sport.
But it's like anything. I even see it on my side. Like the sport as a whole has changed so much in the last 10 years. There's just so many things to do, so many different things to capture somebody's attention.
Yep.
But they don't pay attention to nothing, right? Like if it's not, we even see it with our little press releases that we send out.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Haas sends out a long press release, people will call us all the time like, hey man, we didn't see that. I'm like, well, didn't read the press release. But if it's a short, compact.
Yep.
Oh.
And I even see it with our show.
Yeah.
Like I look at the average minutes of people watching.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, but
Yeah,
you're going to have that, right? Like,
Yeah.
people are busy, and that's why we're getting the YouTube channel going. So you can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Good segue there.
Check it out.
I hear rather watch restrictor plate racing than the mile and a half stuff. I agree with that. I just think that there's a little bit more racing involved in the mile and a half.
Yes.
I personally would much rather watch Bristol, Martinsville, the smaller stuff.
But like I've talked to Kyle about it a little bit, he's just like, they've taken everything away from us. Like they don't have horsepower anymore.
Mm-mm.
He's like, they need to give us horsepower. Like make it freaking spin out.
Yeah.
Right? Like make it
I think
come back into the driver's hands a little bit.
I think we're too worried about hurting people.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, which is a bad thing to say.
Yeah.
But with everything trying to be safe, we're taking away from the racing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we are.
But if you take restrictor plates out of the cars at Daytona, they're going to be flying out of the ballpark.
Oh, dude, yeah, you can't do that. I mean, I think there's things that can be done a little bit better, but that's easy for us to say.
Oh yeah, we're outside looking in, right? Like yeah. We sit there on Sunday and drink beer and watch it.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't no good.
Yeah. But to us, because we're so like it's fast. Like our night in a dirt track world is boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're 4 hours on one track.
Right.
That's our qualifying heat race, B main,
Mhm.
whatever, you know what I mean? A main.
Yeah.
A main's 30, 40 laps, and
Right.
that's it.
Yeah.
So we're used to that, just boom, 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 boom. And I think that's what detracts us from watching NASCAR.
Mhm.
I'll watch the last 25 laps.
Golf, right? Like golf's even taking
yeah.
a hit, right? Like people just
Yeah.
don't go
This
do
new
a 5
TGL
hour.
deal?
Yeah.
This TGL deal, have you watched this?
I have.
I watched it today before, like, it's on primetime.
Yeah.
It's the best thing.
Yeah.
They're on a shot clock.
Right.
Like, they're
Yeah.
hitting into a screen.
Right.
Like, people
Quick.
are getting involved in it.
Quick.
Yeah. Baseball's turned to the same way.
Yeah.
They got shot clocks basically on baseball now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I saw where they were talking about some golf courses getting one-seated golf carts.
Really?
Right, so you're in your own golf cart. You don't have two, so you can go to your ball. Let's get it, and it just speeds up the process.
Well, the way I play,
Well,
Yeah,
you're
my
always
friends-
you're always in this.
Oh, no,
center
no,
of the
no, no,
freaking fairway.
no. Actually-
I know.
no, what I was going to say is the way I play with my cousin's left-handed.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm right-handed.
so you're.
So we're,
Yeah. I can
so
see that.
I can see the pace of play getting sped up
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah. So,
Um,
so here's the thing. Like you don't think about all that. When we went to Sawgrass, they only allow a certain amount of people to tee off because of the wet or because of the sunset. Everybody wants to play 17. So when you get slowed up through the day,
Did you hit in the water?
no, it is the easiest hole. It was like 130 yards.
Did you hit the green?
Yeah, all of us did.
Them pros suck.
Dude, the hard hole was the hole before
16.
it. Oh man, stupid hard. But anyway, dude, they were on us the whole day. Like, listen, if you guys slow everybody else down, the last group of the day can't make it to 17 because it's going to be dark.
Mm.
And it's just like it's hard. Like you can't. It's hard for people just to give up 4 or 5 hours of their day.
Yeah.
That's why I don't golf. I'd love to do it more.
The
I just
good
can't. I don't
thing
have time.
about when I play golf is I'll pick that shit up.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep on going.
Yeah.
And I play at times where there's nobody out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like
You know,
you
and
can
that
rip through a
simulator
golf
stuff-
course if you want to.
That simulator stuff,
Yeah.
I can go over there to Birdie Bay or Scratch Golf in Bixby, and I can play 18 holes by myself in 40 minutes.
Wow.
Well, I'm not driving to my ball.
Right.
I'm not losing a ball.
Right.
If I hit out of bounds, it tells me I re-tee.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
the,
An
the
hour.
thing I
you're
got to
done.
worry about is slow down and drink more beer or something. Right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I've literally played 18 holes with 2 people in an hour and a half.
Good.
Yeah.
And
So-
we can do that.
That goes back to that whole we got to be fast. We got to do this. We got to do because we got so much shit going on.
Yeah.
So much shit going on. Shane, thanks for coming back from vacation so we could do another show of bench racing.
Appreciate it, buddy. We had a good night.
Yep.
It was good. It was a good.
Jake
guest.
was good. G's awesome.
Great idea.
We'll find somebody for next week. We always do.
I have some ideas.
Yeah, we always do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna eventually we're gonna get this up to where it's not just a phone call. We can actually have a video call.
Yeah.
That's what Jake asked me. He goes, "Is this on a video or is this phone?" I was like, "I'm just calling you." I was like, "We're not set up for all that yet, but working on that." I have everything in place to do that except the right laptop. So, once we get a laptop that could have the right speed, then we can do that. So, but thank you guys for joining us tonight. Everybody that stopped by for their 5 minutes or whatever it may be, or if you stayed here for the whole time, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. Thank you for joining us at the Lumber Lounge and Garage and bench racing. Back here at Turn 5, where we started off. Thank you to Avery and Lane. This will be here at every show. No matter where I go, no matter where he goes, that'll be in my car to be with us. Avery was a special person, and was keep his legacy going, and we'll go from there. So we'll see you next Monday. Don't know where we'll be. Probably back here.
Yep.
Unless otherwise scheduled, we might be at Admiral. You never know. We might be back on the casting couch next week. You never know. Go to lumberlounge.com, buy some swag. If you want a bench racing hat like what Shane's wearing, they're not on the website yet, but hit me up. I know people have been asking about it, so you can just DM me and I can get it sent out to you, and we'll get going on that. So we'll see you next week. Be safe, have fun, enjoy your week, because when the week's over, we'll be back on Monday. Do we have any racing this week yet to worry about?
I don't think so. I think everybody's off.
Everybody got canceled.
Oh yeah, because weather.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm going to
terrible.
I'm going to
right now.
Supercross.
Where's Supercross? Dallas.
Dallas.
Okay.
Yep. Taking the kids to Supercross this weekend.
Yeah.
With my good buddy Brad Queen and his wife Courtney and their son. Gonna have a good time down there.
Mm-hmm.
Both our sons are big into that stuff right now. So, looking forward to that. And,
See you next week.
See ya.